Growing up, I've always had a very positive opinion of marriage, and this is likely due to the fact that my grandparents, my parents, and my oldest sister have all had very healthy and successful marriages, free from divorce. Also, about, maybe 80% or so of my friends are all married now with children, and to be perfectly honest, all of them seem very happy with the choice. But since joining YouTube a few months ago, I have expressed my positive opinion of marriage a handful of times, and I've noticed that whenever I do, there is a blatant revulsion towards marriage in the comments. Of course, not all of them are negative, but a large portion of them are. At first, this really confused me because, I'd always believed that marriage was a primary goal for most people. It only took a few minutes of research, though, for me to realize just how wrong I was. The truth of the matter is, the marriage rate is the lowest in at least 150 years, with a 2010 Pew poll finding that 39% of Americans feel now that marriage is obsolete. The average age at first marriage is now 27 for women and 29 for men, up from 20 for women and 23 for men in 1960. Today, an unprecedented portion of millennials will remain unmarried through age 40. The marriage rate might drop to as low as 70%, a figure well below rates for boomers, late boomers, and Gen Xers. According to a report released by the Pew Research Center, 25% of millennials are likely never to be married at all. That would be the highest share in modern history. So why are marriage rates so low nowadays? Why are so many young people rejecting the traditional union that so many before us, our grandparents and parents, wholeheartedly embraced? Here are 4 of the major reasons. This is commonly known. Way back when, sex before marriage was largely frowned upon. Nowadays, though, it's quite the opposite. Sex before marriage with multiple partners is not only the norm, it's encouraged. Being a virgin on one's wedding day is extremely rare. In fact, only about 3% of Americans still wait until marriage to have sex. It's also become a societal norm and is becoming increasingly popular for unmarried couples to live together. According to the 2010 census data, over 7.5 million unmarried couples live together, which translates into 15 million people. This is a whopping 138% increase since 1990 and an increase in 13% from 2009 alone. Furthermore, 40% of unmarried households have children. Knowing this information, it starts to become obvious why the notion of marriage doesn't hold the same value or desirability as it once did. If couples are already having sex, living together, and having children, what more can they possibly have to gain from getting married? Not much. In fact, they might even have more to lose, particularly if they end up getting a divorce. To put it simply, divorce rates nowadays are an absolute dumpster fire. Roughly 50% of marriages nowadays end in divorce, and University of Maryland sociology professor Philip Cohen concludes that based on recent survey data, if current behavior continues, 52.7% of marriages are going to end in divorce. Now, this might not be so bad if the divorcing parties could actually rely upon their divorces being fair, but the truth is they can't. For those unaware of the term, no-fault divorce is a divorce in which the dissolution of a marriage does not require a showing of wrongdoing by either party. Laws providing for no-fault divorce allow a family court to grant a divorce in response to a petition by either party of the marriage without requiring the petitioner to provide evidence that the defendant has committed a breach of the marital contract. Immediately upon hearing this definition of no-fault divorce, several glaring issues become apparent. If neither party is required to show wrongdoing in order to divorce, this allows for the judge to decide upon things like alimony, division of assets, without even being aware of the reasons that contributed to the failure of the marriage in the first place. As for some other issues, Stephen Baskerville, a political scientist at Howard University who is a staunch critic of no-fault divorce, writes that because no-fault divorce is divorce by one spouse acting alone for any reason or no reason, it is therefore forced divorce, meaning you can be divorced over your objections. Even more serious, you can be forcibly separated from your children, your home, and your property, all through literally no fault of your own. Failure to cooperate with the divorce opens the innocent spouse to criminal penalties. No-fault divorce made divorce far more destructive by allowing the state to undertake court proceedings against innocent people, confiscate everything they have, and incarcerate them without trial. Baskerville also writes that the vast majority of no-fault divorces, especially those involving children, are filed by wives. In fact, as the author of Stolen Vows has shown, the no-fault revolution was engineered largely by feminist lawyers with the cooperation of the bar associations as part of the sexual revolution. Overwhelmingly, it has served to separate large numbers of children from their fathers. So why is it that divorce has served to separate such a large number of children from their fathers? Why is it that mothers are far more likely to retain custody of the children when seeking a divorce? While it's expected that judges rule neutrally when it comes to such things, the sad truth of the matter is, studies show judicial bias against fathers. For example, a survey of judges in Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee found a clear preference among judges for maternal custody in general. Another survey, this one commissioned by the Minnesota Supreme Court, found that a majority, 56%, of the state's judges, both male and female, agreed with the statement, "I believe young children belong with their mother." The Georgia Commission on Gender Bias in the judicial system also uncovered judicial beliefs that mothers are always better parents than fathers, that children need to be with their mothers, but not necessarily with their fathers, and that a father cannot be a nurturing parent if he works outside the home. In addition, the commission uncovered a reluctance to deny custody of children to mothers out of fear that doing so will brand the mother as unfit or unworthy. No judges expressed any comparable concern for the reputation or feelings of fathers. Look, as many of my regular viewers are aware, I am a strong advocate for marriage. Not just marriage, but marriage without divorce. But after taking some of these problems into account, I can hardly blame young men and women, particularly young men, for no longer wanting to. Hopefully one day in the not too distant future, we will see some of these problems resolved, and as a result, more people choosing to get married and have strong, healthy families. But for this to happen, we first need to shine a light on and raise as much awareness about these problems as we are possibly able.